Good evening everybody, and 7 o'clock, so call the meeting to order. We'll proceed just as usual. If there is any reason to leave the building in an emergency, just go out that door when you come in. Stand away from the building and probably down the end of the street somewhere, and when it's safe to return, you'll be told. Okay? Right, do you want to... I don't think there's anyone here who wants to record this, apart from us.
Yeah.
Right, any apologies for tonight's meeting? I think we've got
Yes.
Councillor
We've got,
McVicar.
Councillor Rolfe, Councillor O'Connor. And
Oh yes,
yeah.
because he couldn't tell me.
Yes.
So the two of it's Councillor Rolfe and Councillor O'Connor.
O'Connor, yes.
Yeah, okay. Right, any declarations of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interests for tonight's council?
Allotment items.
Allotments, right, that's the same for me, please, Jim.
Okay.
Yes, no? Okay. A few sets of minutes here, just to get out of the way. Right, we've got the minutes on the 20th of November. Proposed and seconded for them, if you've read them and agree with them. I don't know how soon how long you've actually had them. Propose accept Councillor Pennington and seconded by Councillor Caulfield. And the same for the minutes on the 18th of December. Again, just for accuracy, proposed.
Can I comment, Chair, that as we discussed at the last full council meeting, the councillors are not referred to by their marital status, so we should simply delete Miss or Mrs. wherever it occurs.
Right. So I think there's some. When was this actually decided? I know I see an email about it.
The council meeting on the was it 4th?
Okay.
January.
Right. So so I think the gist of it is you don't want Mrs. P. O'Connor or Mrs. H. Page.
That's right.
So we're looking for what? Councillor Page?
Yeah.
Councillor
Yes.
O'Connor? Yes?
Except in the case of Councillors Scott.
Yeah, well they've
we
got
need to put their
two
names and
initials, yeah.
yeah.
Councillor Corbett?
On the grant funding application, the last sentence, it says that Councillor Page, seconded by Councillor Cornford, that a detailed application for grant be considered. It wasn't that, it was that quotes were provided for any application.
Okay. We've got that, yep. Okay, that'll be amended. Any more further on those minutes? No? Okay, well with that, is that taken in? Can I have a proposal in a second to take those minutes? Councillor Page, seconded, Councillor Campbell.
Thank you.
Item number 4, public participation. Is there any public speakers tonight?
No.
No. Item 5. This is the RFO's report, I think, down to you, Jill.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to provide members with a quick update on a couple of items that are not covered on elsewhere on the agenda tonight. Following the last Finance General Purposes meeting, I was surprised to learn that the correct draft minutes will not be circulated to the committee. These were emailed to the Chairman on the 24th of November and all members of Council on the 28th of November. I drafted the agenda for the committee meeting for the 18th of December and this was emailed to the Chairman and Local Clerk on the 3rd of December. I emailed the Local Clerk templates to be used to produce the minutes for the two meetings whilst I was on holiday, and I believe that one such template was actually produced at the last meeting mistakenly for my minutes. I'm pleased to report that we now have a regular monthly booking for our meeting room here, and we've also had 2 further inquiries, so hopefully once the word spreads we may get further interest. The new finance software RBS has been installed, and I want to thank Councillor O'Connor personally for all her support and for giving up one of her days off to be here for the training day that we were both involved with. I've input the first quarter figures and we'll be working with Jasmine over the next few weeks to get up to date so we can start generating reports from the system. We intend to run the manual system that we're currently using in tandem until we've fully tested the accuracy of the new system. We've researched and discovered that the fuel card that we're currently using for the vehicle is charging per transaction. So as a result, I will be using an alternative provider in future. This is under the delegated authority to the Town Clerk as per terms of reference 9C. And I have carried out best practice and researched 3 options for which evidence can be provided if any member requests. Following the allotments working group meeting, there's been 2 nominations for site representatives. Therefore, this eliminates the requirement to carry out the election process. So I'll be writing to both of those volunteers to advise them they have been successful and to invite them to attend the office to have a formal discussion with me soon. The Speed Watch match funding application was successful and we have received approval for 1 machine at this time. Kent Police have advised that if our group becomes busier with volunteers and observations, this may trigger a second device in future funding opportunities, but at the moment they've approved 1 to meet our requirements. We have received confirmation from the Thanet District Council that the council tax base for 2019-20 was approved on the 15th of January 2019. So the figure of 2453.53 is final. As our Band D equivalent figure has to be directly divisible by 9, so that bands A to H can be calculated accurately, this results in a proposed £14 reduction in the overall proposed precept figure that we had on our extraordinary meeting, which would be 136,686.00, which gives us 55.71 as our proposed Band D equivalent. Now, I've just shared that with you here this evening before full council in February, but all that information will be on the agenda for the February meeting for all members before that all goes off to the Thanet District Council. But if you want the notes from that, there's no problem after the meeting, I can supply those for you. Okay. Thank you. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So with the alteration into the precepts to be divisible by 9, going back to full council and for application.
In February, it's just to clarify for all members that obviously, because we didn't know what the council tax base, when that extraordinary meeting took place, we didn't know what the council tax base was at that time. The figure that we got isn't divisible by 9. So yeah, it only makes a slight alteration to the actual final figure, but obviously we can report that to full council and put that on the agenda so that it's agreed and ratified.
So can we say what the effect on the total income figure will be from the precept?
Basically, if we, because it has to be divisible by 9, we just need to reduce it by £14, our overall precept figure. It's £14 is
Oh, that's on the total?
Yes, the total, okay. Yes, yeah. So okay. It's so slight, but obviously I want to, so I've reported that this evening to you all because I just got the information, but I put it on the agenda so that it's ratified at full council in February. Okay, thank you.
Anybody got any further questions? No? No? Thanks. Right, finance and budget performance reports for receiving. Bank reconciliation for December 2018, which you have. Yeah.
Just wondering, on the uncleared checks,
Mhm.
I mean, there's only one there this time.
Yes.
Who is Andrew Way?
He was the gentleman that did the PA system for the Beacon Martin event.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on that one before we see it? Okay. Agree to receive that one. So there is it.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, proposed council comment.
Well, I think we just received it.
Yeah.
Okay, should be. That's budget versus expenditure now.
Yes.
Any comments on that? Queries? Councillor Page?
If we look at expenditure and item number, or cost centre code 5,500, which relates to salaries,
Yes.
the one relating to the operatives, I think, just for accuracy again,
Mhm.
I'm assuming that 2 times 30 operatives actually should be 2 times 30 hours.
Yes, because I think in the previous budget there was the allocation wasn't there for increasing the hours. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that needs to be a little bit
Okay.
clearer in its explanation, otherwise that could be read as something
Okay.
completely different. 60 operatives.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Take that on board. No problem.
Okay. Anything else?
And then a spelling at the bottom as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, will you receive those? Yeah? Okay, this is a forecast report for December. 31st of December.
Yes.
Okay, the same again, is there any queries, questions, amendments? No? Happy to receive it? Councillor Crawley.
I've just got one question. Who is Susan J. Deeprose?
Our landlord.
Ah. Thank you. No, I thought it was somebody else.
Okay. Right, everyone happy with that? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
And the last one should be payments report year to date, which is this one, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. Any queries, questions, concerns? Councillor Taylor?
I was somewhat perplexed by the variance notations in that column.
Anything specifically?
Hash div/01.
Yeah. I think because this is an Excel spreadsheet, if the figures are a bit too big, sometimes they do because they instead of actually doing the number, it will take. So it's just literally the width of the column just needs a bit. But I think the trouble is it was so small. I mean, I'm actually, if I need to focus to read it, but if we made it any smaller, we wouldn't have got the information on the page. This is actually, because we haven't done this report before, there's a lot of information to start with. But obviously in the future, it won't be as big as that. So that's why you've got the pages behind to give you the, breakdown, if you like. So that information on the front page is actually broken down in the pages behind. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other queries on that?
No.
No? Okay, received them yet?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 7, small grant scheme funding application. This is from the West Gaven Sea Scout Group. We've got the application in front of us here. I believe this is for tents.
Yes.
Have they had an application, have they had a grant on this before?
Not this year.
Not this year.
Well, they had, sorry, through the chair, they had something for the rainbows earlier in the year, didn't they? Westgate First Rainbows, they had £120.
Yeah, the rainbows are separate. This is the scout group.
Oh, it's separate, okay.
Boys and girls, I think. Well,
Right, you got any thoughts on it? I think they want
Well,
£800.
just following up on Councillor Cornford's comments, we did hope that there would have been some justification for the figure, for instance through a quote from the supplier. The second thing is, they talk about 2 tents, but they say that they're putting all their fundraising efforts into the roof. We are currently fundraising very hard to replace our roof as a major priority, and they say that in reply to question 18, have you applied for funds from other sources? It says yes, but not for tents. So I don't know, are they hoping we'll get them one and they'll buy another one sometime when they can? Because they say the total cost of the project is around 1,500. This is question 15. The total cost of the project is around 1,500 for 2 tents.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wouldn't want to stand in the way of it because it's a good organisation, they do good work, but really we would have hoped for a more complete application form, I think.
Yeah, it looks as if they're asking for half of what it's going to cost them.
It's
Councillor
over,
Page.
it's over half. Yes, I agree with Councillor Pennington's comments. This application actually is not completed properly. Answers to some of the questions don't relate to the actual application, and they are actually, I've worked out, they're actually asking for 53 1/3 of the total. They're asking for £800. Well, under the rules of this scheme, our maximum ceiling is 500 under the rules. So personally, I wouldn't be happy to approve 800. I've looked into purchasing canvas tents because they haven't provided us with any background information or actually provided any information of having sought funding for this anywhere else. So it looks like we're the only assistance being sought. You can actually buy 2 canvas tents for £500. But like anything else, if you start to look into it, it can get, well, you can. It gets more and more complicated depending on what you're trying to purchase. But again, we haven't been provided with that amount of detail. Yeah, just going through the application, I've scribbled all over where they haven't really answered questions properly. And I think really when we're getting these applications for grants, we should have more information to support why they're asking for such a large amount of money from the scheme.
Councillor Cornford.
They're a very worthy cause, but it's setting a precedent if we issue grants without any quotes. I don't think that's a path we should go down. I think whoever applies for a grant should provide quotes along with the application. It's it's a tricky one because it's I feel as if we're in a rather difficult position because it is a worthy cause, but they have had grants before, and it was pointed out at the last meeting, so I don't know why the message hasn't got through to them. Whoever is sponsoring them really needs to say, you must get 3 quotes. It doesn't set a good precedent for future applications. That's my view.
Councillor Page.
Well, just looking at the last page of the actual application, there's a checklist at the end. And one of the boxes they've ticked as having done, where appropriate, evidence of other funding secured letters, emails, etc. They've ticked it, but they haven't provided it.
Well,
Yeah, please.
I suppose what they're referring to is the table which is attached where they list only the fundraising for the roof. In other words, they have been asking us for funds, but been asking for their roof and not for the tent. I mean, you know, you can make lots of jokes about this, but
Any more thoughts? Well, it's your decision. I'd like to think we can help local groups like this, and take on board that the maximum is set at 500 unless there's exceptional circumstances, which we've always said if there is, we'll judge on its merits. Yeah, it's difficult because these are the sort of local groups that we would like to support in these things. How's it gone?
I think we're expected to make a fair and just assessment, and they have been, you know, it's in the minutes that, you know, we did say 3 quotes. That's standard practice. So I don't think, as I say, setting a precedent, other groups, it's not fair, and they should provide 3 quotes.
Yeah, Councillor.
yes, thank you. Yes, in my view, we could indicate to the Scouts that we would be willing to help them buy more tents, but they have to give us detail, firstly, on the kind of tent they want to buy, and secondly, to provide hard evidence of the cost, which would best be done, as Councillor Cornforth says, by providing 3 quotes. We did decide, I think, that given that we have spent up the allocation for this year, that we would still be open to considering requests that were particularly urgent, but I don't see any urgency in this application, so I don't feel any pressure on it that we have to decide it now rather than waiting till April.
Councillor Hyde.
Reflecting on your last comment, we did agree that unless something was a dire emergency, that we would not be approving anything further until the next financial year. Again, I don't regard this as an emergency, and I think given that we've got a few months until the start of the next financial year, it would give this group time to provide us with the extra evidence that we clearly are asking for.
Okay. Just to refresh my memory then, is that because our budget for the grants is spent for this year?
It's closed now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Councillor Cornforth.
Just on the last meeting, I know I personally mentioned the fact that yes, it's January sales, so I'm not sure why they haven't got together 3 quotes to take advantage of that, because I'm sure if they provided 3 quotes, we would have looked at those. So I think Councillor O'Connor did say something about what was available, didn't she?
Sorry, I wasn't at the last meeting, but
Cool. No, it's in the minutes. Anyway, they haven't, so it's not relevant. Yeah. Councillor O'Connor advised the committee that there were underspends in the current budget and that it may be prudent to approve this expenditure before the 31st of March. That is what she said. And it was myself who said, well, it's sales time. But that hasn't been taken on board and there aren't quotes.
Right. Is there a specific stipulation then that they've got to have 3 quotes? Have we set that down?
I believe that's in
Standard
the rules,
practice.
isn't it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's why I'm asking. Is it stipulated by us that we ask for 3 quotes? I mean, obviously with 3 quotes, if it was the council buying something, I can understand that because the council would need to get the quotes before they spent the public money. But they are not. They are actually asking for a grant. I mean, what what quality they buy would be up to them. I mean, I've just asked them for a grant. Councillor Corbett.
As it's public money, I think they should at least supply some information. There's absolutely nothing here. You know, there are a lot of people out there who would like to have a grant. And I think if you're going to apply for a grant, you need to put some effort into it.
Sorry, Councillor Corbett.
If you look at the last page of the actual application at the top, D28, how will the costs of the project be met? How can you demonstrate value for money? The reply in the box says, we will be conducting conversations and obtaining quotes from several specialist tent suppliers. And that would indicate we're doing that either now or into the future, but it hasn't been actually produced for this application.
Correct. Okay, well, I suppose, yeah, that's from their own mouth. So what do you want to do with this application then?
I made a proposal.
Could you repeat it then for this one?
That while we are willing to support the Scout group, we feel that the cost requested is high and insufficient justification has been given, both as to the specific cost of the tent and also there is no indication of urgency. So we would like to wait until they have the information available.
Okay. Well, I think they have this. Thanks, John. I think they have actually said it's 1,500 for 2 tents, isn't it? Around 1,500 for 2 tents.
They haven't specified what kind of tent they want, how big the tent has to be, whether with 2 tents they can accommodate that whole group. I mean, you know, it doesn't take much.
Well,
Why didn't you tell them to provide 3 quotes?
I personally don't see. They know what they want. They're asking for some. They're asking for a grant towards getting there. I mean, obviously they want to secure some tents. Councillor Page.
May I suggest that we ask the town clerk to contact the group and ask them if they've obtained the necessary information yet, because they said in the application that they were dealing with that, so it might be polite just to ask them if they've done that and can they please provide it, and then we could maybe consider this further once we've got that information, and then take it from there.
Okay. Anything? You happy? You want to make that as a proposal, or do you want to go you want to?
Yeah, it's okay.
Can we do both? Can we combine it as one
Well, yeah,
proposal?
we can probably make a composite out of it if you want to see us.
So, yeah,
But-
you're deferring, basically, deferring until you have further evidence and information, and deferring to the next meeting, shall I? Yeah.
Well, perhaps as the details, the concerns that councillors have said tonight, Jill, if you can relay that to
Okay.
the Scout group,
Yes,
and then hopefully they can reapply with the relevant
Yeah.
and
supporting evidence,
Yes.
yeah, okay, that's fine.
Councillor Corbett.
Can we mention that this impacts on future grant applications? This is the purpose of it.
Okay.
Okay. Right, so the clerk will then get in touch with the Scout group and relay the feelings of the committee tonight, okay? You're all happy with that?
Yeah.
I'll get this proposed by Councillor Page
Yeah.
and seconded by Councillor Pennington.
Yeah,
Right, that's
thank
it, and then you can correspond.
Can
Right,
I
Councillor.
just, can I just ask, shall we hang on to these applications?
Yes, please.
What you mean personally? Yeah?
Well, to keep them for
Yeah.
the next meeting?
Don't they need to correct?
Is that all in all? Is that in all to take this?
Absolutely, as long as
There's
obviously
nothing-
under
there-
data protection,
Yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're happy for me to take them this evening and I'll keep them in the
Well,
office.
I'd rather you take them.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'll look after them, yeah, thank you, yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Collins.
Can I just say with those applications, do they not need to make the corrections that Councillor Page pointed out? Or that are
I mean,
there and Councillor Page brought, highlighted?
thank you. What I will suggest is that they do an addendum, if you like, to the application, yeah, so they don't have to do the whole application again, just with the extra supporting evidence, yeah.
Okay.
Right. Number 8 is the update on the incident at the allotment garden site on Lymington Road. I think this is where somebody hit the gates and buckled them and they've been temporarily repaired. And I assume we've gone out for quotes for proper repairs.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, so I've sent members the information for the 3 estimates that we have. We've got one from Jackson's Fencing, Tunbridge Fencing Limited and Albion Fencing. I would like to recommend that we use Albion Fencing. They were the company that actually installed those gates when they were initially put there by Tunbridge Council. They've actually undertaken the temporary repair and they have very good service and are local, and I feel that they would be the best company to use in these circumstances. Obviously you've got those 3 quotations in front of you.
Yeah, Councillor Page.
Just on the question of would they be clearing themselves or would they be expecting us? The reason I ask is because the quote from Jackson's Fencing gives us a quotation excluding VAT, but then they stipulate that we would need to provide skips and dispose of any waste. Would Albion be dealing with that themselves?
Yes, they are. Yeah, we're not expected to do any of the clearing or anything. They said that is everything. So I've spoken to them on telephone. They said that's for delivery, for the manufacture of the gates, to actually do the work and clear any refuse or anything that, as a result of the work.
And is inclusive of VAT?
Yes, yes.
Councillor Collins.
I just want to say it's really, it is good, I would choose these myself, and I think it's really important that we use local companies,
Yeah.
very important.
Yeah, I was trying to see where are Albion Fencing based? I can't see on the quote.
Garlange.
Garland, which one's Tonbridge?
Yes.
Jackson's Fencing, I can't see the other one. Where'd they come from?
They are. Head office is Stoughton Common, Ashford. Ashford. Yeah.
Okay.
Can
Yes,
Sure.
Councillor.
We really should have had quotes that were more comparable, and normally I would not accept Albion's quotes simply because it doesn't break down the total at all, and it says nothing about quality of what is installed, nor does it talk about guarantee. But given that they did the original fencing, and they're probably best placed to make sure it all matches up and so on, I'm prepared to go along with it. It's just below the quote from Tunbridge Fencing, which implies it's in the right ballpark.
Who was the company that done the emergency repairs?
It was Albion Fencing that did the emergency repairs.
They did.
Yeah, yeah. It came out within 24 hours.
Yeah, I was there when by coincidence, I was actually there when they turned up. And they've done I think the state the gates was in. When I went back later, they've done a very good job of it, and for a temporary measure. That's all I was saying in that bit. Right, any other comments for a recommendation or whatever? No?
No.
All right. What would you say?
I was going to propose that we accept the quote from Albion
Albion?
Fencing.
All right, okay, is there a seconder for that? Okay, well, that'd be unanimous.
Thank you.
Albion Fencing. item number 9, which is what the clerk has touched on in her report, regarding the draft council tax base, which I think you've already explained to us, Jude.
Yes.
So, do you want to repeat yourself, or?
That's what
I think we just need, to just reiterate as a decision, because a decision is required. Well, do as your suggestion is.
Thank you, yes. It was just to say, well actually, sorry, it was on the item, a further item down. Yeah, so I mean, if members here this evening want to support that the slight £14 reduction, and then we can take that to full council for, it's completely up to you if you know, and I've got it on there, so if you want to, give me a recommendation this evening and make the decision that you're happy for the £14 reduction, but, if you want to take it to full council, then we can take it to full council. So if I...
Well, I think you'll have to go to full council anyway,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's not,
that's right,
it's not the
because
same,
No, that's right,
even
yeah.
though it's 14 quid under,
Yeah, that's
or
right.
£14
No,
over, or
No,
£5,000 over, it's
Yeah.
a different figure, isn't it?
it is, yeah. No, so
Okay.
we'll leave that one for full council.
Can we actually decide, or are we being told?
Well, sorry, I know it was on here this evening, that was to get the recommendation, that was my understanding, and then to go to full council for. But obviously I've already covered it in my report, which I shouldn't have done because it was on the agenda, but so...
No, but I mean, do we have a choice in the matter? Do we have any choice, or is it simply that TDC have told us they revised the figure?
They've revised our base figure, which is, so basically, when we had the extraordinary meeting, we didn't know what the base figure was. So it has to be divisible by 9. So our figure that we came up with, that we agreed at the extraordinary meeting and went to TDC, isn't divisible by 9. So, but I'll get all the full explanation for everybody for full council, so it's all very clear.
Yeah.
Because I've looked into it with Thanet District Council accountancy.
Yeah. Just to clarify the situation, it might be helpful for next year's budget to know in advance if there are rules like that.
Yes.
So that we can all learn our 9 times table before we do the budget.
It's all, I think it's always been like that ever since,
Has it?
it's always been like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know about it, so I see it, because I wasn't at that meeting, if you remember.
I do remember.
But the first I heard about it was when I read the agenda tonight.
Yeah.
If I'd have known about it before, I would have mentioned it, but I wasn't here to mention it, but because when we first formed as a council, we made that mistake.
Oh, I see.
And then that's when Mr. Wade came in and he said, no, it has to be divisible by 9. So yeah, that is it.
Would you like me to explain it, Chairman?
Well, I don't think it's really...
Well, this is
No,
this is
thank
the
you very
fourth
much.
year you've
No.
got it wrong.
I think that, I think we can send it up to full council.
I was going to say, there is no problem because the accountant at Thanet District Council said to me, we didn't know what that base figure was when she said there's no problem at all. It's just a case of, making sure that the figure that we have is divisible by 9 and then, so it is absolutely no problem at all.
Okay, we'll line that out.
Okay.
Okay.
We would.
Yeah.
Do we need to vote?
Well, we need to just to accept that we will send this up to full council and that's it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Are we recommend, sorry,
Yeah, thank you.
we are recommending, I didn't hear what you said.
No, the decision, I mean,
That we,
Yes.
yes, it
we
will go to
recommend
full
full
council.
council.
Yeah, it'll have to, won't it?
Yeah.
We
Yes,
can't do it here.
that's what I
Thank you.
thought. And it is only £14 over the whole.
Yeah, it'll be a different figure
It
to the
will,
one
yeah.
that was agreed,
That's
Yeah,
so it'll have to go.
Yeah, thank you.
Right, item number 10, impact assessment from the data protection officer. That's that, usually, I think.
Yes.
Because I know nothing about that.
Yes. Thank you. So basically, following the audit that the Data Protection Officer undertook with me, this is the report that was generated. It's quite straightforward really, it just says that we're going in the right direction and obviously there's a couple of different things just to pick up on, some reports and policies that I need to put in place. But other than that, she said we're in a good place, we are compliant in lots of areas, so just to receive really and thank you.
Chair,
Yeah, councillor Page.
can I just point out, at page page 2, items G and H, although they've got different headings, it's actually the same paragraph being repeated again.
G and H.
Yes, G&H. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes, it is. It's confusing. The treated for recreational ground, and it's separate to the actual building.
Okay.
So it
Yes.
looks like it's a cut and paste, but
It's not, okay, that's fine, that's all I needed to know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Just proves I do read these things.
Okay. Just as a matter of interest, Jill, this is the one is this the one we're sharing with Burlington or not?
No, we're not sharing because when we've looked into that, but everyone had already got their assessment on board, so we were actually one of the last to
Oh, that's right.
employ
that's
Setswana,
fine.
yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the one. Isn't this the one that Cal used?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. You all alright? Any burning issues with it? You wish to bring up? It's only for it's for receiving, not really a decision.
no, it's good, it was interesting.
Okay. Okay, if you're all happy to receive it then, I'll take that as received then.
Yeah, thank you.
Number 11, Westgate Sea Allotment Site Representatives. I think you did.
I have covered that in my report,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So, it's, I don't want to repeat this, you've already heard
Who are
it.
they? Can I ask who the two are going to be the site representatives?
It is,
Tony?
no, two ladies.
Oh, I don't know.
I can't remember their names now. No, I'm sorry, I can't remember their names now. I can get that information for
Okay.
you.
Right, it's not important, I just wondered who it was.
Yeah, two ladies.
So there's two ladies going to be the site.
Site representatives, and they are sharing the role. So there's not a deputy, as we indicated. They want to be equally responsible.
How does that affect the subcommittee, the working party subcommittee? Will they get a seat on that, or
Yes, they're going to be invited to join the working group.
Oh,
So
I see.
that's all
so
done.
will that make it up to 6 then from 4, or is it 4 we got on it? I think it's 4, isn't it?
Yes, it will.
So
Yes,
it's up to 6.
yes.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else got anything on that? No. Right.
Sorry, is everyone happy for that to proceed? I just wanted to put decision on.
Oh
there.
yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a decision, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So you're all happy,
Yeah,
yeah?
thank you.
Proposed by Councillor Comfort and seconded by Councillor Bates.
Thank you.
Right, the last item is Chairman's report. I don't have anything to report, especially over the Christmas period and also, so I think, I don't think there's any point in prolonging the meeting.
Right.
So thank you very much at 7:44. The
Thank
meeting
you.
is now closed and the next meeting will be on the 19th of February.
Thank you.
Thank you.